What's up, guys? Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about players grade vintage guitars. If you ever shop for vintage guitars, you'll often hear the term players grade, and basically what it means is the guitar is not mint, it's had stuff done to it. It's still a good player, but it's not collector grade. So the first one that I have here, this is my 1969 Gretch 6122 Country Gentleman. This one is definitely player's grade because of the binding issues that it has. And Gretches are really known for having binding issues on the vintage guitars, especially the later 60s. They'll definitely have what they call binding rot. Each layer of binding will start to deteriorate, and it'll turn dark brown and crusty, and it'll crumble off. And this guitar is no exception of that. So you'll be able to see that the binding all around is kind of deteriorating. It's really aged a lot faster than the rest of the guitar. You can see some of the hardware on it is kind of oxidized, and it's turned green, and the gold has been worn off in places on the pickups and on the bridge and the Bigsby. Overall, the finish is in pretty good shape. It's lightened up quite a bit. If the floating bridge was taken off, you'd be able to see underneath it was much darker. And this model does have the sealed top with the painted on F-holes there. Which leads us to the back here, where we have the big pad on the back. And these were to cover up the access compartment, I guess you'd call it. Since the F-holes are painted on, they fish all the electronics through the back here. And the pad looks kind of cool, keeps it from getting buckle rash. You can see that this guitar, it's really been played in. It's got a lot of wear to it. If you look at the back of the neck, you can see that a lot of the finish is worn off, and this is almost down to just bare wood. It's really played through all the lacquer finish on the back of it, and it just gives it a really vintage look. And a lot of people relic their guitars these days to look like this, but this one's just true play wear. Someone must have played a lot up here around the 3rd fret. It's really worn out right there, and just overall, it's a player's grade guitar. It's nowhere near mint, but it's definitely a good player. These Gretches, they have a really thick neck on them, which I really like. It's not like a Gibson baseball bat neck, but it's definitely like a full C shape. It really fills up your hand. I really like the neck shape on these, and this is the only guitar that I've actually played that had a 0 fret on it before. And honestly, I can't really say it makes much of a difference, but it looks nice. These Filtertrons are some of the best pickups I've ever played, hands down. They are really warm but clear, and the bridge pickup has that twang that almost like a Tele would. These Gretches are really known for having a clear and twangy tone to them. You can really get some really cool rockabilly and country tones out of that bridge pickup. It's one of my favorite bridge pickups I've ever played before. Both of these pickups measure around 4.09K, so they're definitely a little bit different spec than like a newer TV Jones would be. A lot of modern humbuckers are a lot more higher output than those are, but they sound really good. They're warm, and they definitely give that Gretsch sound, the twang. It'll eventually be rebound. I have plans on having it fully restored, so that'll include a full rebind on the body and the neck, and it'll probably end up having to have the neck adjusted a little bit. Just because it may have shifted in the past, I don't know, 60 years, 50 years that it's been around. So it'll definitely get a bunch of work done to it, and even then, it'll still be a player's grade guitar in my opinion, just because we're not going to do anything about the wear on the finish, and the hardware is pretty patinaed, which looks cool. I really like it. This guitar definitely has some vintage mojo. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's just a really cool guitar, and you could you could tell someone really loved this guitar before I got it, and I'm going to keep that going. So whenever I got this guitar, in the original case, there was actually like 200 business cards of the guy's band who actually owned this before, and they were in New York, and I'm in Arizona now, so the guitar's been all across the country. It probably ended up being bought in New York back in the 60s when it was made, and the guy toured with it. The band was called Gil Goodspeed and His Countrymen. It's always cool to know the story behind the guitar, and it definitely adds some character to it. Like, you could tell this guy probably gigged this guitar every night with his country band, and it would be cool to get some more info about them, but it's cool knowing a little bit of backstory of the guitar. Overall, man, killer guitar. It's really fun to play, and one of the best tones I've ever had, despite the way it looks. You know, it might look old and beat up, and the binding is all falling off of it, but it's something special. Just something, the way this guitar sounds and the way it plays, and it's really killer guitar. So really nice player's grade guitar. So this is a late 60s Epiphone Casino. The serial number puts this thing around 66 or 67, but if you notice, this one is one of the Epiphone Casinos that got the 19th fret neck joint instead of the 15th fret neck joints. This is considered a long neck Casino, and just like Gibson, Epiphone, they moved to having the 19th fret neck joint like the 335s and 345s, and they switched to that around 67 or 68. It's possible that this is one of the first or one of the earliest Epiphone Casinos to get the long neck on it, which is kind of cool because it gives you the access that a 335 would have. It has the two dog ear P90s on it, which sound great. So the backstory on this one was that it's actually owned by a guy who was in a Beatles cover band called Beatlemania, and they toured every night, almost every day of the week. You know, it was like their main job was just touring as a Beatles cover band, and this was the guy's main guitar. And you can really tell that it's really worn in on the fretboard up here. There's some pretty deep grooves in the rosewood on the neck, and it was definitely played a lot. The binding is actually fading from the white into the dark yellow color, because this is probably where they mainly played, was up here on the top part of the neck, and their hand, you know, must have stopped that aging process that happened on the binding there. So, you know, I really want to talk about players grade guitars, and this is definitely one of them due to the changed pickup covers, you know, and the pick guard. You know, there's some dings here and there, lots of finish checking, and here's one of the cool stories that I've heard about this guitar by the guy I bought it from. And if you look closely, the neck pickup was replaced at one point, and I guess they were on tour. The guy in the Beatles cover band, they were on tour one night, and the neck pickup went out in this guitar, stopped working. So they went to the guitar shop and they said, hey, look, we need a new neck pickup. It has to be a dog ear P90, obviously. And the guitar shop only had a bridge P90. The neck pickup cover is actually smaller than the bridge pickup cover, because of the way that the neck angle is. The bridge pickup has to be a bit taller than the neck pickup. So what they did to fit the bridge pickup is they actually routed a little bit out of the top of the guitar. And I knew going into it that it was going to be a player's grade vintage guitar, you know, but it really helps it be quite a bit more affordable, you know. Just like if you could find a 60s Strat that's been refinished, you might be able to get it in, you know, close to half the price is what you might pay for like a all original, really good condition one. So this one, you know, having the flaws that it does, it helped me be able to get the guitar. You know, same with the Gretch, and overall, I mean, this is one of the nicest guitars that I've ever owned and played. It just plays so smooth. It is incredibly resonant and lightweight, and overall, I mean, it's just a really killer guitar. You know, we're missing the tremolo arm for the tailpiece here, the Epiphone tailpiece. Um, but overall, definitely player's grade. My favorite part about this entire guitar is the back. It's just that like super awesome walnut stain, and in the right light it just looks amazing. You know, this is definitely on par with a Gibson 330 from the 60s. You know, they're pretty much the same guitar. They were made in the same factory in Kalamazoo, Michigan by the same people with the same wood. And you know, they all just ended up getting different headstocks. The Gibsons would get a Gibson and the Epiphone would get an Epiphone. You know, this is never going to be a mint guitar. It's never going to be museum quality. So it just gets played every day, and you know, just appreciate it for what it is. It's a really nice player's grade vintage guitar, and it's a really easy way to get into like the vintage market if you're looking for a place to start. You know, this is only going to really cost you a little bit more than what you might spend on like a new American guitar. You know, I mean, some of those can get up into like the $2,000 range. So yeah, that's what I basically just wanted to show you guys a couple of my player's grade vintage guitars. They're still great guitars, still the ones I play every single day. You know, really good way, like I said, to get into the vintage market without having to spend top dollar. Chances are I wouldn't have either of these guitars if they were mint. You know, they would have either been asking too much than I could afford, or they wouldn't have been being sold, or whatever the case. I guess I'll do some restoration videos as this Gretsch gets restored back to, you know, as close to original condition as we can get it. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you guys have any player's grade vintage guitars, or just want to say anything about these ones. Thanks for watching.